China has a well thought through strategy for how they can turn themselves into the global superpower, largely by obtaining technology, capital, trade, and other goodies, you might say, from America. It's a brilliant plan. It's a long-term hope that if they squeeze the Americans for everything they can and pretend to be America's friend and ally, they will end up number one in the world. They often refer to warring states and the tactics of the warring states period. And one of those tactics was a kind of win or lose, I win, you lose, zero-sum game. Only one country got to lead the world. And that country had to destroy the others or set them against each other or undermine them, steal their technology. There are a variety of techniques that were used in the warring states period. Almost never war itself. Almost never war itself. It's the most important lesson. And there's even a book about the new warring states era that came out in 2006, where they describe how the current world and geopolitics so much resembles the warring states, not to start a war, but to use deception, internal discord, different kinds of maneuvers to break up opponents, coalitions against you. All of this is seen by quite a few Chinese in Xi Jinping's own speeches as a kind of guide to the strategy to become number one in the world once again. The Chinese deny this. They say they don't have a secret plan. They don't want to replace America. They don't have any such strategy, that they will never seek hegemony or global domination, and least of all, not to replace America. So this is a complicated thesis to argue that American China experts are split over what to say about this book, because it's got 60 pages of footnotes and an awful lot of declassified documents that our regular mainstream China experts, frankly, did not know.
Well, but I'll just comment. You kind of didn't know, or at least chose to look the other way for a really long time.
No,
somehow, right?
That's not true.
Okay.
I was involved in it.
Okay.
But our laws prevent classified material from being discussed with outsiders. So I never had a conversation with an outsider saying, we are spying on the Soviets through a set of bases we have in Xinjiang province. Couldn't say that. Now you can, because it's appeared in the New York Times, and the security review permitted that to be in here. There's a set of these things that I knew about, I was part of. And it's part of the reason why the Chinese military and the professors and think tank people in the government in Beijing, why they will see me. Because they remember the 70s and 80s, when Pillsbury was part of the team to provide intelligence, weapons, advanced technology, trade, help create agencies. We created the Environmental Protection Agency of China. We created the CDC of China. I was seen in Beijing a lot. I was there in person with government delegations, part of the program to build China into a major power. So I cannot say I didn't know. I was in it. And that's part of the reason why some things have been redacted, removed from the book, is the CIA and FBI and DOD felt that telling too much about just how deeply involved we were in China, that's considered still too sensitive to reveal. And as I said, the Chinese seem to feel the same way. They don't want this relationship exposed where they got so deeply into our government. If you go to the internet website for U.S. Embassy in China, our largest embassy in the world, 2,300 people, is in that embassy and our consulates. 50 federal agencies are housed in that gigantic embassy. Each of those 50 agencies cooperates with China, its Chinese counterpart. But 100 Year Marathon tells the story of how it started and the risk that was taken by Kissinger and Nixon to start security cooperation with a communist-controlled government, the leader of whom had killed, by scholarly estimates, Chairman Mao had killed between 50 million and 100 million people. Now, he would say it's by accident. He didn't kill each one with a gun. But still, Chairman Mao had quite a few sins to his credit. So why do we end up selling weapons and opening up our economy to Chairman Mao? But it gets worse, you might say, or from the point of view of pro-China people, it gets better as time goes on and we develop increasingly close relations with China. I remember specifically, the capitalists of the world have central banks in their countries. The central banks get together twice a year in something called the Bank of International Settlements in Bern. Well, the Chinese are like, no, we're not a capitalist country. We're not going to the Bank of International Settlements. And the U.S. prevailed upon them. You don't understand it. You'll get a lot of benefits if you'll come to this. You'll learn what all the other central banks are planning for the coming year in terms of interest rates and reserves and so forth. So we persuaded the Chinese to go to the Bank of International Settlements, where, by the way, there's a private dining room and chef. They love it. They feel sorry. They never didn't understand in the beginning what a great club this would be to belong to. We did the same thing with the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund. We told them that you need to be in all the UN specialized agencies because this is the global world order. And one by one, they joined all the UN specialized agencies. There's about 16 of them. And then they began to take them over and they become the directors. President Trump put a stop to that, and so is Biden. But still, it gives you an example of how the U.S. showed them the way. If you want to become a great superpower, you need to do all these things. Initial Chinese reluctance. No, we're communists. We're not going to do that. And then we persuade them by a conscious decision in Washington, D.C., by various presidents. We're going to bring them in to the liberal world order. And we're going to make them, we used to have a slogan, several presidents used it, strong, prosperous China is in America's interest. So I believe some materials I found showed the Chinese consciously knew when we go in the World Trade Organization, we're not going to abide by the rulings. And one of my favorite examples is the credit card story. Several U.S. credit card companies got together and got the U.S. government to sue China in the World Trade Organization. You can sue another country. And the Chinese lost. The evidence showed they were pushing their own credit card, but not letting our credit cards be used in China, except in a few hotels. So China said, we're sorry, we're guilty, we'll fix this. It's in 2012. They never fixed it. And in the meantime, this is the brilliance of what they're doing. In the meantime, they learned from our credit card companies how to improve their global market share. So today, the world's most used credit card is the Chinese TransUnion credit card.